Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a quick video to show you how to handle API errors and DB query errors. And this is very important because you actually want to show useful error messages to your users in production so that they know what has gone wrong, and that also helps you debug what went wrong to be able to help them out. So this video is going to be broken down into 4 parts. First, I'll start by showing you how to handle API errors. Then we'll take a look at how to intercept and handle DB query errors. And for these two, I'll be showing you how to handle them using async await and also using JavaScript promises. Does that sound good? I'm sure it does. My name is Confident and I'm a developer advocate at AppSmith. Without any delay, let's get started. So right here, I am on a blank canvas, and the first thing we need to do is connect to a REST API. We have this HTTP status REST API, which actually makes it easy to test the various HTTP status code. So we're going to be making use of this in today's video. So what I'm going to do is head back here, go to the Explorer, create a new blank API. I'm going to call this my API, all right? And this is going to be a GET request to the HTTP status API. So how this API works is that it actually echoes out whatever status code you give it. So if we say, for example, 400 and we try to run this actually gives us the bad request status code, and you can see we have a bunch of errors going up right here. So this is going to help us test our application so that we can see how the application works when various errors occur. All right, so here we have the REST API done. The only thing I'm just going to do right here is create a UI that makes it possible for us to select various status code and test the APIs using those status code. So I'm going to be using a select widget here. So this is a select widget. All right, so let's expand this a bit. And I also need a button widget. So I'm just going to grab this right here and drop it. This button will be used for running the API, so I'm just going to call this run, and that's basically what we need. Let's go ahead to configure the select widget a bit. So let's go in to provide a bunch of options for the select widget. I'm just copy pasting a bunch of status codes. So we have 200, we have 400, we have 401, 404, and 500. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's going to help us have an idea of how our application work under various circumstances. So let's go in to give a default value of 200, okay, all right. And for the label, this is going to be status code. All right, so this looks good. I'm just going to expand this a bit, give the column width of 7, and seems like we have a typo here, so I'm just going to delete the P, and that looks nice. By the way, we released theming, and it actually makes it so much easier to style your applications. So I'm just going to click on an empty space on canvas, go to change theme, and select this nice pink theme. And you can see that the application has been totally updated, and this looks so much better. So here we have the UI done. Let's head back to the API, which is my API, and make sure that the status code is actually coming from the select dropdown you saw earlier. So this is going to be select1.selected option value. And here we have 200 OK here. So if I go run this, we should have 200 OK coming back, which is expected. All right, so this looks good. Now we actually need to write some JavaScript to intercept the error handling, because if we go ahead to run the API using the run button, like we go run the API directly from the run button, there'll be no way for us to control or know when an error occurs. So we need to create a JavaScript file and use that for the error handling. And to do that, it's actually quite easy. So let's go create a JavaScript file. I'm just going to create a JS object. All right, and here I'm going to call the first function the runner function. All right, it's an async function. We're going to be using async functions for now. And secondly, when we take a look at the database queries, I'll be showing you how to do that using promises. So to handle errors using async functions, this is actually quite straightforward. We need to put whatever code we're writing in a try catch block, and that's going to make it easy for us to handle whenever error comes up. So this is going to be a try block, and this also requires a catch block. So this is a catch block, and this can have an error, all right, and that's basically all we need. So the catch block has a parameter, which is going to be the error or whatever error occurs that has been caught. So that's the try catch block. So in the try block, we can go ahead to run the API. So this is going to be await myapi.run, which looks good. And we can also go ahead to do other things we want. So we can say do other things here, and that's basically it. So if we go run this right now, everything is going to work fine because we are actually having a status code of 200. But let's go put an error status code, for example 41 unauthorized. So if we go run this, things should break in our application, but right now we are not handling it, so there's actually no way to know. It says runner ran successfully because we are not actually handling the errors. So let's go in to handle the error. So if an error occurs, what we want to do right now is just show the error message. So we can say return e, which is the error object, dot message, and this is just going to return the error message. So if I go run this right now, here we have a text saying my API, which is the actual API right here, failed to execute. So we're actually getting the error message here. And in addition to this, there are some other places we can look out for to get more information on what exactly went wrong. So I'm going to change this into a template string. So I'm just going to use backticks so that we have a template string and copy paste the error message here. All right. The other places we can take a look at is the actual API data. So this is going to be template string here. And let's take a look at what we have in myapi1.data. So if I run this, for example, you can see that here it says 41 unauthorized. And that's the actual data that is returned from the API. By the way, the JavaScript editor is revamped, so you can see that right here I was clicking on the side gutter to be able to run the function. You also have the nice drop down here to be able to run the functions, and a settings pane right here for all of that. There's going to be a separate video on this, so I'm going to leave that linked. Alright, so heading back here, we are able to see both the error message and also the actual data, and it's also possible for us to take a look at the status code from running this function. So we have that information right here, so I'm just going to put this right here. It's going to be my api1.response-meta.status code. All right, so I can go ahead to run this, and here we can see the actual status code from running the API. So this is actually really straightforward. We've been able to intercept running the API by executing it in JavaScript, and here we are catching the error and handling it. But one great addition we can make right here is actually display this information to the user on the UI, so that if an error occurs, they know about the error and they know what to do about it. So what I'm going to do is cut this out. So I'm just going to cut this out, and instead of returning a string, I can use the show alert function and pass that in right here. All right, so this is the show alert function, and for the message type, this is going to be warning, and this looks really good. So let's head back to the application on the UI, hook up the run button to execute the JavaScript function. All right, so when this is clicked on, we want to execute the runner function, and whenever we go click on this, this actually shows a warning saying the API failed to execute. It shows the message and also the status code, which is exactly what we want. But if this actually works, for example, we have 200 okay. If we go run this, we actually have no message showing up. So this is exactly what we want to do, and we're handling the error and displaying the message right here on the UI, as you can see. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is show you how to handle DB query errors. So when you have a database and there's an error with it, how do you also handle it? Let's jump into it. So the database we'll be using in today's video is going to be Redis. Let's go ahead to set up the Redis database. So I'm just going to head over to data sources. Here we have Redis. All right, so I'm going to call this database Redis. All right, for the host, I'm going to copy paste the host address here. And also, we also need to grab the port. So the port is going to be 11911. All right. For the username, this is going to be the default username, which is default. And I'm going to paste in my password. And we can test this. And this is a valid data source. So I'm going to go ahead to save this and create a new query, which I'm going to call my DB query. All right, this looks good. So for this query, we actually want to grab the actual query command from the UI. So we want it such that we'll be able to type in the query command into an input widget. read that from here and handle the error using JavaScript. So let's go create a UI for this. So we need an input widget to be able to type in the command. All right, so this is an input widget. We also need a button, so I'm just going to paste in a button right here. So for the input widget, this is going to be the command. So I'm just going to update the label to say command. All right, and set the width to 6 so that we have enough space right here to display the label. And for the button, this is going to be the run button similarly, and this looks good. So let's go ahead to write a JavaScript function to intercept calling the API and handling it. And as I promised, this is going to be done using JavaScript promises. So let's go into do this. So I'm going to create a new function, and let's call this the runner2 function. So this is the runner2 function, and it's going to be a function using promises. So we actually don't need to use the async keyword here. So I had a typo right there, so I'm just going to pass in the curly braces. All right, so to actually do this using JavaScript promises, we need to return a promise. So I'm going to return a promise, and that promise will run the MyDB query. So this is going to be mydbquery.run, which is the actual promise, and we can go on to start handling errors and doing whatever we want. So I'm going to add a .then here, and when it is successful, we actually want to do some stuff. So I'm just going to add the comment here that says do other things here. All right, but if an error actually occurs, I'm going to add a case for the error, which we can do using .catch. All right, and this is going to have an error object similarly, and here I can handle the error in this function right here. So this is going to be very, very similar to the async await. It's going to be so similar that in fact I can actually copy the error message right here, paste it here, and it's going to work exactly the same way. But I'm just going to update my API to MyDB query. All right, this is also going to be MyDB query, and everything else would work as well. The DB query is going to have a data field, and it's also going to have a status code. That's because under the hood, AppSmith treats both APIs and DB queries similarly, so they are going to both have similar structures when it comes to the response. So we have everything done right here, and I can go run this, and we should have an error because right now we actually don't have any command passed into the MyDB query. So let's run this. We should have an error, and you can see right here it says the query failed to execute, and that's because the body is null. So I can run this one more time so that you see the error message, and you can see it says body is null, and we have the status code of 5005. So we can go back to the UI and hook the button to actually run the JavaScript function. So this is on click. We want to execute the runner2 function, and let's actually supply a real query. So we can say get name, for example, and if we run this actually fails because we haven't linked the input to the query. So let's head back to link that right here. So this is my DB query. We want to link whatever is coming from input1.text, and here we can see that this evaluates to the get name command. So I can head back to the UI, and now running this should actually work, which we don't see any error. But if we try to type in a command that we know is not an actual command, for example, I'm just going to type in rubbish and run it, you can see that it says this is not a valid command. All right, so we've been able to see how to handle API errors using async await, and also how to handle DB queries using promises. By the way, these two are interchangeable, so we can actually go back here, for example, and swap the async await for the DB query and also promises for the API. So they're actually interchangeable. You can handle both in whatever style you fancy because they are both the same under the hood, as I explained earlier. Alright, so this was really fun showing you how to do this. If you'd love to learn more about writing JavaScript to handle asynchronous events, that's using async await and promises, we made a video right here that shows you exactly how to do that. So go check out that video to learn how to do it. Or if you'd love to know about how to run JavaScript functions on page load, we made a video right here that shows you exactly how to do it. Alright, that'll be all for today's video. If you have any comments, please put them in the comment section. Don't forget to get subscribed, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.